mi gente, it's your girl Mama FAERY, and today we're going to be talking about spiritual narcissism and doing the earth work. Let's get into it. This is going to be a deep and vulnerable one. I have been wanting to make this video for a long time. A couple weeks ago, I made a video about soul contracts, new earth ascension, and sacred embodied activism, and I realized that I kind of missed a step in the process, which is doing the earth work, doing the human work, and human embodiment within the self. Just a disclaimer, I am no expert. I am still dissolving and working with my spiritual ego. I am still learning how to be humble and how to be grounded in the body and how to be grounded into the human experience and how to be a good person. I am still learning how to be a good person. And so everything that I say, please take with a grain of salt. Ask your body if your body feels good, if your body resonates with this, and then it is your truth. And if your body does not resonate with this, then it is not your truth. This is simply me sharing my experience of being on the spiritual healing journey and trying to help other people also gain a sense of clarity within themselves. The reason I wanted to make this video is because I think this is crucial to anyone's spiritual healing journey. Something that I have witnessed within New Age communities and just within my experience as expanding my consciousness is that a lot of people don't want to do the shadow work. A lot of people don't want to do the earth work. They believe that they can just subscribe to a lot of these non-conceptual, transcendental concepts, and with this they can achieve a sort of enlightenment or expand their consciousness or be one with all things. But something that I want to stress in this video is that we cannot really reach the fifth or the sixth dimension if we are not able to become aware, acknowledge, and face the obstacles that live in the body and that live in the third and in the fourth dimension. Now, what is the spiritual ego? What is spiritual narcissism? What is spiritual materialism? The spiritual ego is simply another way that the ego tries to survive through spiritual concepts. The spiritual ego is when the ego attaches to spiritual ideas and uses these ideas and these concepts as an identity to receive more love, to receive more attention, and to receive more nourishment. The spiritual ego usually has this external guise of being a healer or a medium or the chosen one or an indigo child or a star seed that's here to awaken humanity and assist in the evolution of consciousness, when deep down this person is actually looking for attention, for love, for nourishment, and they have attached their identity to these concepts so that they can receive the love that they are craving for deep inside. This is a sort of manipulation, and it is an indirect way of receiving love. Because the person, because the inner child, because the human self has nourishment barriers, and due to trauma, psychological trauma, mental and emotional trauma, they do not know how to receive and accept, fully receive and accept love or God or source into their body. They are using these guises and these identities to make up for the love that they have never received. I see this a lot in the New Age communities, from people being healers and channelers, and then at the end of the day they are horrible to their family, or they self-harm, or they have eating disorder. This spiritual ego and spiritual materialism manifests as a fragmentation within the realms, within the earth self and the spiritual higher self, that keeps the being from actually achieving a sort of spiritual embodiment, grounded spiritual embodiment. And by that I mean grounding the divine into the flesh, which is actually what we're supposed to be doing in this incarnation. The only reason I know this is because I have a spiritual ego, and this is something that I have been aware of and working on for a long time. In the entirety of my 7-8 years of being on a spiritual healing journey, I have noticed that the spiritual ego has been the most stubborn egos of them all. In my journey, this manifested as this sense of grandiosity, this sense of feeling like I'm more important, more capable, better than other people, this sense of being a narcissist, believing that I am superior to others because I hold wisdom, because I have worked on myself, because I've dedicated myself to God, when really that is just another way for me to deal with my sense of inferiority or my sense of feeling unloved and unreceived. Now, a little bit more of a background story. Before I had my spiritual awakening, I was depressed and I was suicidal, as many of us start our spiritual healing journeys. At the age of 13, 14, and 15, I was self-harming. I hated myself. I didn't want to be in this body and I didn't want to exist. This is because of some deep-seated childhood trauma, the trauma of being a starseed, and also the trauma of being born into a patriarchal, colonial, and capitalistic society that teaches one how to hate themselves and how to disconnect from source. And so, because I've experienced such deep trauma, I have developed multiple ways of coping with this trauma. First, it was self-harm, and then it was obsession with beauty, and then this turned into coping with spiritual ideas. This turned into coping with spiritual enlightenment and coping with my pain, my trauma, through subscribing to these non-conceptual transcendental ideas that actually kept me further away and further in dissonance and in disconnection with my body, with humanity, and with my relationships. And so the whole time from ages 16 to 19, I thought that I was healing, but really what I was doing was subscribing to another coping mechanism. I was still coping with my pain in a way that was unhealthy. This is called spiritual escapism. Using spiritual ideas, spiritual concepts, transcendental concepts such as we are all one, or the body doesn't exist, or race doesn't exist, or the ego is an illusion, to avoid feeling and facing my pain. With my spiritual ego, I was unable to actually cultivate deep, authentic relationships. Because I was constantly this teacher and this healer, I was actually unable to fully settle into my body and experience true intimacy, experience true, authentic intimacy with another person, because I did not have an authentic, intimate relationship with myself. This really affected me because I was constantly put on a pedestal, but I had no sense of relation or connection with other people. And so this actually just further deepened my wound, and it actually further created fragmentation, dissociation, and isolation within my space. Having a spiritual ego is very, very common, and it usually happens within the first couple years of spiritual awakening. It is normal, and it is just the final layer of the ego integrating into the body, integrating into the self. Spiritual bypassing is a huge clue that you have a spiritual ego. Spiritual bypassing is basically using spiritual concepts and beliefs to invalidate pain. I know in my journey I have harmed and manipulated myself into thinking that my pain is not real and that it is not valid, and therefore it is not worthy of love or attention. This is when we get into talking about doing the earth work. Now, what is the earth self-work? What does it mean to do the earth self-work? Committing to the earth self-work, committing to the human work, is actually the dissolve of any kind of illusion. It dissolves the veil of spiritual illusion, and it actually helps these transcendental concepts that come from the higher self ground into the body and fully actualize and physicalize into spiritual embodiment. Committing to the earth self-work is the divine feminine work. It is a matriarchal work. Within spiritual New Age communities, these transcendental concepts are often a result of colonial and patriarchal indoctrination. Whereas the masculine approach of ascension is transcendental and out of the body, the feminine approach to ascension is actually deeply rooted in the soma, deeply rooted in the body, and deeply rooted in the emotion. The body The soma is an intelligent, intuitive vehicle for source consciousness to work through. Therefore, emotions are actually divine tools, divine masters, divine teachers. Because when an emotion is completed, when a pain is completed, it actually turns into lessons and into wisdom. And when we're able to trust in the unfolding process of our emotions are actually able to transmute organically and naturally and arrive at a sense of wholeness and completion. We are able to bridge the worlds and clear out all fragmentation and fully ground the spiritual higher self into the body and into the soma and into the heart and into the womb. And this is the alchemy of the body. This is the alchemy of the soma. This is the alchemy of the feminine. And this is the alchemy of the earth self-work. This is the bridge between the higher realms and the lower earthly realm. This is what it means to do the earth work. This is what it means to commit to the earth work. Committing to the earth work and committing to the human work is coming in full circle and acknowledging the pain that exists in the body, acknowledging the trauma that exists in the body, acknowledging the emotions that come up, acknowledging everything that is coming up, holding space for it, validating it, and allowing it to integrate into the body and into the spirit, back to source, back to where it has actually came from. Doing the earth self-work is the dissolving of the spiritual ego. It is the dissolving of spiritual narcissism. Grounding into the body and grounding into the soma cultivates a sense of humility within the spiritual path. When we're able to become aware of the deep pain and trauma that is stored in our body and transmute it with our awareness, we are able to understand that being human is actually very difficult, and that we all incarnated within the body to experience this difficulty so that we can grow and so that we can learn. To connect with love, connect to the heart, connect with our earth self, connect with our human self, and do the trauma-based work while also integrating these higher self concepts and becoming aware that we are spiritual beings, have a human experience. We are able to find balance and embodiment within the self and walk our lives in alignment with our divine values. And when I began doing this, my relationships were much more authentic, much more intimate, and much more organic. I was able to really locate and access deep-seated wounds with myself and within community and within relationships, because I was finally willing to open up and be who I am. If you got this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you resonated with it. Let me know in the comments how you felt, what you were thinking, what your process was like. And yeah, I'm going to be releasing videos every week, every 2 weeks. Here is my Goddess of Creation album dedicated to the awakening of divine feminine energy. Here is my Moonstone lyric video. And here is my last video talking about New Earth, Starseed Awakening, and Sacred Embodied Activism. Thank you so much for watching. Ashe.